Alright, yeah, it's me coming back at you again with another vid. Now, another fight could be potentially be held up here. Not exactly in serious jeopardy, but it's more being held up. And that bout is the Adonis Stevenson and Badou Jack fight, which is scheduled to take place on May 19th at the Montreal. I think it's at the Bell Center in Canada, obviously, on Showtime. So, the reason why this fight could be held up at the moment is because Eleider Alvarez, or his manager on his behalf, is seeking some type of step-aside compensation. Okay, now it was revealed months ago, I think a year ago, that Yvon Michel had told the WBC that, look, Alvarez has stepped aside once before, and he hasn't received any compensation for his last step-aside situation. And prior to that, he did get some type of compensation when Stevenson asked him to step aside the second time. Okay, but needless to say, Stefan Lapine has came out and said, look, he's planning to he's planning to go to file a junction. I believe he's going to file a junction with the courts in Montreal if he doesn't get some type of compensation for the next two fights for Alvarez. Okay, so what he's asking for is a properly negotiated step-aside deal, and the compensation amount that he's looking for is $1 million for the next two fights, and he also wants an assurance that the winner of Stevenson Jack will have to fight Alvarez next. Now, from my understanding, we all thought that Alvarez was pushed aside as the mandatory when he refused to partake in a final elimination bout against Alexander Vosdik. And to be fair to Alvarez, he fought in like 3-4 different title eliminators already, and he is within his right to reject that request by that mandated fight by the WBC, whatnot. So, and speaking of the WBC, the reason why they mandated that fight because they approved Stevenson to fight Badou Jack. All right. So it's been nearly 3 years now since the Stevenson hasn't even made a mandatory defense in 5 years. Damn, that long? Jesus Christ. But let's go down the timeline though. Okay. All fairness though, because Alvarez was offered so many step-aside deals with Stevenson, whether there was some money involved or whether there was no money involved, okay? But at the same time, Alvarez is equally responsible for why this has been such a fucking mess in to begin with, because he and his team should not have never agreed to these step-aside deals with Stevenson in this matter, okay, or his team, okay? They should have went in there and said, you know what, we want our shots and we need it now because we waited long enough. All right. So I guess it's gotten so frustrating to the point that Alvarez, who has been largely inactive at this point because he hasn't fought since 2016? When's the last time that Eleider Alvarez has fought? Let's look at the calendar here. Or he fought last year. He fought early last year. Let me take a look. But anyhow, he's been largely inactive, and I think he's realizing that he's losing some money here to the point that he needs to fight now. But obviously, he's not going to get a fight anytime soon. So what he's asking for, due to the course of the inactivity, is $1 million in compensation for the next two fights. And he's asking for his guaranteed shot at Stevenson or Jack, whoever the winner is out of that fight. So, that right there is well, actually, you know what, he's actually scheduled to be on the let me take that back. Alvarez is scheduled to fight on the undercard of that fight, but there's no opponent that's been named for that fight, so we don't know, man. This situation is very, very, very complicated between Alvarez and Stevenson. Now, to me though, will this fight be stopped? I think the WBC, they're not going to stop this fight because they've already sanctioned Stevenson and Jack. But nonetheless, Lapine could go ahead and file a legal junction with the courts of Montreal, and they can overrule the sanctioning body and say, look, you got to put a halt to this fight because there is a written contract there that he is guaranteed his shot. So he must get a shot before Stevenson makes any type of voluntary defense against the likes of Badou Jack. Now, if you ask me personally, I think this fight with Jack and Stevenson needs to go ahead because Alvarez has, like I said, I give him the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, I'll give Stevenson the benefit of the doubt in some regards because at least Stevenson is fighting a much better opponent, in my opinion, and everyone else's opinion, than Eleider Alvarez. Yes, Eleider Alvarez is the mandatory, but he's equally responsible for why this mess is, it is what it is in the first place, why this mess is, why we have this mess now between him and Stevenson and the WBC. And the WBC not mandating the fight like they've done many times, but yet they're allowing these step-aside deals to go ahead for the last 5 years. So, with that said, I don't know if I'm with Lapine on this one, to be honest with you, okay? I think, look, I understand they want some type of compensation for the damages, but at the same time, they're going to say, we're going to threaten to halt this fight if we don't get what we want. I think that's a little bit of a bridge too far. Maybe I'm just being a little harsh on them because I really want to see the Stevenson and Jack fight. Anyways, drop a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts about this. And I know Low Place is going to be pissed off. I'm out.